Hello, and welcome back. I'm so glad you're here in our quiet corner of the universe. Settle in, let the world outside soften and fade, and allow your thoughts to drift with me for a little while. Tonight, our journey won't take us out into the cold expanse of space, but inward, into a universe just as vast, and perhaps even more mysterious, the quiet, shimmering landscape of your own memory. It's a strange and beautiful territory, isn't it? A place we visit 100 times a day without a map. But have you ever stopped to wonder what a memory is, really? When you recall a moment, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the sound of a loved one's laugh, the taste of your favorite childhood candy, what is it you are physically holding on to in your mind? In this episode, we're going to gently explore that question. We'll ask not just what a memory is, but how the mind builds its incredible library of our past, weaving together sights, sounds, and feelings into the story of you, and perhaps most poetically, we'll wonder why that library is so beautifully, tragically flawed, why some moments fade like old watercolors, while others remain as sharp and bright as a star, burning quietly in the back of our minds. Before we begin our quiet exploration into the mind's beautiful territory, I have a small, gentle favor to ask. If you find a little bit of peace here with us, a simple like on this episode, or subscribing to our channel, helps this quiet corner of the universe reach other people who might be looking for it. It truly means the world. And in the spirit of tonight's journey, I would love for you to share something in the comments below. Think of a fond, distant memory that comes to your mind right now. It doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. Perhaps it's just the faint scent of rain on a summer afternoon from long ago, or the feel of a particular blanket, or the sound of a song drifting from a faraway radio. One of those little moments that has become soft around the edges, but still holds a quiet warmth. It's always such a joy to read through your thoughts, and to be reminded of the countless beautiful stories we all carry inside us. And now, let's take a quiet moment, just for you. If you feel comfortable doing so, wherever you are, I invite you to gently close your eyes, let your breathing soften, let the sounds of your room fade into a distant hum. There is nothing you need to accomplish here. I'd like you to let a single, simple memory find you. Don't search for it, don't force it, just create a quiet space in your mind and see what floats to the surface. Let it be a memory of a sensation. Perhaps it's the exact taste of a spoonful of your favorite childhood cereal, the specific warmth of a sunbeam cutting across the floor on a quiet afternoon, the feeling of cool, smooth mud between your toes. Maybe it's the rough texture of a well-loved blanket, the faint scent of old paper from a favorite book, the echo of a particular line from a song your family used to play. Just a single, shimmering fragment. Hold it there for a moment. Feel its shape, its temperature, that little glimmer, that whisper of what was. That is where our journey begins. So, what is it, that little fragment you were just holding on to? That quiet echo of a past sensation. It's easy to think of memory as a perfect recording, a tiny faithful video camera in your mind that captures moments exactly as they happened, storing them in a vast, dusty film archive. When you want to remember something, you just find the right reel and press play. But the truth is far more poetic and far more strange. Think of your mind less like a film archive and more like an artist's studio. And a memory isn't a finished film. It's a collection of beautiful, scattered scraps. The feeling of cool grass, the specific shade of a twilight sky, the scent of cinnamon, the sound of a particular laugh. When your brain decided that moment was worth keeping, it didn't press record. It carefully collected those sensory scraps and fragments of feeling. This is what neuroscientists call encoding. Then, it tucked them away for safekeeping, a process we call storage. And here is the truly magical part. When you call on that memory, as you just did, your mind doesn't just pull a file from a drawer, it becomes a storyteller. It gathers those old, faded scraps from the studio floor and begins to weave them together again, right now, in this moment. This is retrieval, and it is an act of reconstruction, every single time. It's not a dusty photograph you pull from an album, it's a story you are telling yourself anew. And this simple, elegant idea that memory is not a recording, but a reconstruction, is the key. It's the key to understanding why some memories feel so sharp, and others feel soft around the edges. It's the key to why our past is a living, breathing thing, not a library of ghosts. And this journey, this attempt to find the right story for what a memory is, it's not a new one. Not at all. Long before we had brain scanners or talk of neurons, we had philosophers, thinkers lying awake under an ancient sky just like us, wondering about these shimmering ghosts of yesterday we all carry inside. Our fascination with our own inner world is as old as our fascination with the stars. Let's take a gentle stroll back in time, over 2,000 years ago, to ancient Greece. Here we meet a thinker named Plato, who offered one of the first and most beautiful metaphors for memory. Imagine your mind, he suggested, as a block of soft wax, a perfect blank tablet. When you experience something, it leaves an impression on the wax, a clear, sharp mark, if you were paying close attention, and the moment was potent, a smudged, blurry one, if you were distracted, or the feeling was faint. And over time, as the wax warms and cools, these marks can soften, fade, or even be written over completely by new experiences. It feels so fitting, doesn't it? It explains so much of what memory feels like. The sharp sting of a specific criticism, the soft, faded outline of a childhood afternoon. But it still treats memory as a kind of recording, a stamp pressed into the mind. Then came Plato's student, a man named Aristotle, who added a new, subtle, and profoundly important twist. He was less interested in the stamp itself, and more fascinated by how we find our way back to it. For him, memory wasn't just a library of impressions, it was a chain of connections. Think of it like this. When you try to recall something, you don't just jump to it, you follow a trail. The scent of rain on hot pavement reminds you of a summer storm, which reminds you of a holiday you once took, which reminds you of a song you heard on the radio, which reminds you of the feeling of being young. One thought pulling on the next, a quiet, invisible thread leading you through the labyrinth of your own past. That was Aristotle's great insight, that memories are linked by association. These weren't theories of neuroscience. Of course, they were poems about the mind, but they were the beginning of our long, quiet quest. They show that for thousands of years we have been trying to map this strange and beautiful territory, not with instruments, but with imagination. And that quest would eventually lead us away from wax tablets and invisible threads, and towards something even more intricate, something woven from the soft hum of electricity and the quiet dance of chemistry. And so our quiet quest for the nature of memory fast forwards, leaving the marble halls of ancient Greece and drifting across more than 2,000 years. We land gently, not in a grand philosophical forum, but in the quiet, solitary world of a single curious mind in the late 19th century. Our next guide isn't a famous philosopher surrounded by students. He was a German psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus, a patient pioneer who decided to study memory not with metaphors, but with a metronome and a list of words. And these weren't just any words. To make sure that old connections and meanings didn't interfere with his work, he created his own, thousands of them, nonsense syllables. Most of them a simple consonant, followed by a vowel, then another consonant, words like VOK or ZI. He was his own, and only, subject. For hours at a time, day after day, he would sit and quietly memorize these lists, patiently testing himself to see what he could recall. After a few minutes, an hour, a day, or a month, what he discovered was something both simple and profound. He charted his findings on a graph, and for the first time in history, humanity could see a picture of what it feels like to forget. It became known as the forgetting curve. And what it shows is that the process of forgetting isn't slow and steady, it's dramatic. The drop is steepest right at the beginning. In the first hours and days after you learn something new, a huge amount of information simply washes away, but then the decline gracefully slows, and a small portion of what you learned can linger in your mind for a very long time. It's as if the memory is a delicate sketch drawn in the frost on a window pane. The moment it's made, it begins to fade, quickly at first, as the sharpest lines blur and soften, but then the process slows, and a faint, ghostly outline can linger for weeks, months, or even years. This was a quiet revolution. Ebbinghaus took the sad, beautiful decay that Plato and Aristotle had only mused about, and he measured it. He showed that this deeply personal, elusive part of our inner world followed predictable, almost mathematical, rules. It was the first time that the poetry of forgetting was translated into the quiet language of science. And this simple curve, drawn from one man's patient work with nonsense words, raised a whole new set of beautiful questions. It showed us that we forget, and how we forget, but it didn't explain why, what is actually happening in the beautiful scattered studio of the mind, as that delicate frost slowly disappears from the window pane. And so here we are, we have these quiet, elegant stories, Plato's soft wax tablet, marked by experience, Aristotle's invisible threads, connecting one thought to the next, even Ebbinghouse's gentle, fading frost on the window pane of the mind. They are all beautiful maps of a phantom territory. And yet, a quiet, persistent question began to hum just beneath the surface of all this poetry. These maps were exquisite descriptions of a memory's behavior. They told us how it could be stamped into being, how it could be found, and how it could fade away. But they never answered the most fundamental question of all. Where is it? Where, in the soft, shimmering architecture of the brain, does the memory of a sunbeam's warmth, or the echo of a forgotten song, actually live? Is it a single, special cell, a specific molecule? Think of it like a beautiful, old music box. The forgetting curve tells us how the melody might slow down and fall silent over time. But where is the song itself? It isn't just in the metal of the cylinder, it isn't just in the teeth of the comb, it is in the patterned relationship between them all, waiting to be brought back to life by a simple turn of a key. This was the question that would shift our quiet quest from the realm of philosophy into the wet, living laboratory of the brain. The question that would drive neuroscience for the next 100 years. What is a memory made of? And where does it hide? So, where does a memory hide? Where in this soft, wet, living organ is the warmth of a specific sunbeam or the melody of a forgotten song, kept safe? The beautiful, elegant answer is that it isn't hidden in any one place. Just like the song in the music box isn't in one tooth of the comb, a memory isn't stored in a single, solitary cell. It exists in the relationships between them. Let's gently zoom in, passing through the architecture of your mind, until we arrive at the fundamental building block, the neuron. Picture 100 billion of them, woven together in a quiet, shimmering web. Each one is a living thread, reaching out with delicate branches to listen and to whisper to its neighbors. But they don't quite touch. Between the end of one neuron's branch and the beginning of the next, there is a tiny, quiet gap, a microscopic space of breathtaking importance. When a message, a little spark of electricity, travels down one neuron, it has to cross this gap to continue its journey. This crossing is done with a little puff of chemical messengers, and this space, this site of the gentle handshake between two neurons, is called a synapse. And here, in this quiet, whispering space, is where the magic truly lives. The connections between neurons are not fixed. They are not static wires. They are living, changing, and adaptable. This idea is called synaptic plasticity. Think of it like this. Imagine the vast network of your brain is a deep, quiet forest at twilight. The possible connections between neurons are like faint, barely there trails through the tall grass. When you experience something new, when you see a new face or learn a new fact, a signal travels along a specific set of these trails. A single journey might be forgotten, but if you walk that same path again and again, the trail becomes wider, clearer. The grass is trampled down. It becomes a well-worn path, easier and easier to travel, and a path that is never used. A memory, then, is not a thing, it is a well-worn path. It's a specific pattern of strengthened connections. a unique trail you have carved through the forest of your own mind. And when you recall a memory, you are simply walking that familiar path once more, sending a new whisper along a road you have already built. Let's stay with this gentle thought for a moment. This idea of your memory as a quiet, living forest. Because if a memory is a path, then the act of remembering is the act of walking it. Every time you recall a moment, the scent of a grandparent's home, the feeling of a particular song, you are sending a quiet traveler down that specific trail. With each mental footstep, the path becomes a little wider, a little clearer. The ferns and undergrowth are pressed back. The way is made easier for the next journey. This is why some memories become so effortless to find. They are not just paths, they are well-worn highways, carved into the landscape of your mind by the patient traffic of your attention. But what of the paths not taken? The quiet trails that lead to a memory you haven't visited in years. Nature is patient. The forest slowly, gently reclaims its own. Moss softens the edges of the trail. New shoots of green push through the soil. The path doesn't vanish in an instant. It simply fades, whisper by quiet whisper, back into the landscape until it is almost indistinguishable from the surrounding woods. This is the quiet, organic nature of forgetting. It isn't a violent act of deletion, like a file being dragged to the trash. It is a slow, soft return to the wild, a path simply becoming a forest once more. And so, the landscape of your memory is never static. It is a living map, redrawn with every act of remembrance, and softened by the quiet passage of time. So this living landscape of your mind, this quiet forest with its fading and well-worn trails, it raises a gentle question, doesn't it? Who is the cartographer? When you live through a new day, full of new sensations and moments, who decides where a fresh path begins? How are all the scattered pieces of an experience, the sight, the sound, the feeling, first gathered together and marked as something worth keeping? The answer, or at least a crucial part of it, lives in a small, beautifully curved structure deep within your brain. It's called the hippocampus. And it's best to think of it not as the final dusty library of your past, but as the head librarian. Think of it like this. Every new experience arrives at the librarian's desk first. The hippocampus doesn't hold on to the whole memory. That would be far too much. Instead, it acts like a masterful index. It takes the new moment, the warmth of a new sweater, the sound of a stranger's laugh, the particular shade of a twilight sky, and it quickly notes where all the different sensory pieces are. It creates a little card, a pointer, that says, here are all the fragments of this moment, and this is how they all connect. It is a temporary hub for your consciousness. But the librarian's desk is small. It's a place for sorting, not for permanent storage. Its most elegant and important job is to prepare these newly tagged experiences for their final home on the vast, quiet shelves of your cortex, the grand library of your mind. And this delicate, vital work of transferring memories from the temporary index to the permanent collection, that happens mostly at night, in the quiet, restorative hours when you are asleep. A silent, nightly task of archiving the story of your day. This brings us to a quiet and profoundly human question. What happens if that head librarian, the one who so carefully creates the index of your day, is no longer at their desk? What if the brain loses its ability to make new paths through the forest? The answer isn't a theory. It comes to us in the form of a story, a sad and beautiful one, that taught science more about memory than almost any other in history. It's the story of a man known to the world only as patient HM. To treat a severe and debilitating case of epilepsy, doctors in the 1950s performed a radical surgery. They removed the part of his brain where the seizures were thought to originate, and that part was the hippocampus. On both sides of his brain, the surgery was a success in one sense. His seizures were cured, but it came at an astonishing cost. From that day forward, HM lost the ability to create new long-term memories. Think of it like this. The grand library of his past, all the books from his childhood and young adulthood, was still there on the shelves. He could tell you stories from before his surgery, but the librarian's desk was empty. No new experiences could be catalogued. No new index cards could be made. The quiet, nightly task of archiving the story of his day had stopped forever. He would wake up each morning, thinking it was still 1953. He would meet a doctor, have a pleasant conversation, and then, a few moments after the doctor left the room, he would have no memory of the person or the conversation at all. Every meeting was the first meeting. Every meal was a surprise. He lived his life on a single, perpetually refreshing page, unable to turn it and see what came before. He was a man, forever, living in the present tense. His life was a quiet tragedy, but it was also a beacon of light for neuroscience. This condition was the first, definitive proof that the hippocampus isn't where old memories are stored, but it is the essential place where new memories are first formed. He was the living, breathing evidence that making a memory and storing a memory are two completely different things, happening in different parts of the beautiful territory of the mind. And his story reminds us of something quiet and beautiful about our own. The ability to weave the thread of today into the tapestry of all our yesterdays isn't just a function, it's a gift. It's the gentle mechanism that allows our lives to have a story, a future, and a sense of self that grows and changes with every new path we carve. So, we have a quiet map now, don't we? A gentle understanding of the beautiful machinery behind it all. We have the soft, shimmering paths carved through the forest of the mind. We have the patient librarian at the desk, the hippocampus, who so carefully indexes the story of our days. We have a sense of the physical shape a memory takes, and how it can be found, or how it can slowly, gently fade. But any good library is more than just its architecture and its indexing system. It is defined by its collection. What kind of books actually fill those vast, quiet shelves inside of you? Are they all the same? The truth is, not all memories are the same kind of story, and our mind, in its quiet wisdom, organizes them into two beautifully distinct categories. First, there are the stories you can consciously tell, the memory of the name of your first pet, the facts you learned in a history class, the beautiful, shimmering narrative of your last holiday. These are the memories you can bring to the front of your mind, hold in your awareness, and declare to the world. These are the books you can knowingly take from a shelf, open, and read aloud. Scientists call them explicit or declarative memories. But then, there is the other kind of knowing, a quieter, deeper kind, that lives in your body, not just your thoughts. The way your hands know how to tie a shoelace without a single instruction. The way your body knows how to ride a bicycle decades after you last tried. The specific, learned rhythm of playing a familiar chord on a piano. This is not a story you read. It's a skill etched into the very floorboards of the library, a feeling woven into the texture of the air. This is your implicit memory, the knowing that happens without you needing to think about it at all. One is the knowledge you have, the other is the knowledge you are. And to truly understand our inner landscape, we need to gently explore both. But this isn't the only way our quiet inner library is organized. Beyond the type of knowledge, the stories you can tell versus the skills you embody, there is another beautiful distinction based on time, a distinction of how long a memory is meant to stay. Think of it like this. Your mind doesn't have just one single vast storage room. It has two. There is a small, temporary, brightly lit antechamber, and then there is the vast, sprawling warehouse of your past. The first is your short-term, or working, memory. It's not a dusty archive at all. It's a small, active workbench. This is where you place the thoughts you are using right now, the phone number someone just told you, the handful of ingredients you need from the pantry, the shimmering thread of a sentence you are trying to hold onto as you read. But the bench is small. It can only hold a few items at once. If you try to place too much on it, something is bound to get nudged off the edge and lost. It is a space for the immediate, the temporary, the now. And then there is the warehouse. This is your long-term memory. This is the place we have been exploring all along. The quiet, endless shelves stretching back into the soft darkness of your personal history. Its capacity is, for all practical purposes, limitless. It holds the scent of your childhood home, the melody of a forgotten song, and the face of every person you have ever loved. Most things that land on the busy little workbench are swept away at the end of the day. They serve their purpose, and then they are gone. But some things, the moments that are surprising, or emotional, or repeated, are deemed important enough to keep These are the items that our patient librarian carefully catalogues, packs up, and sends off to be placed on a permanent shelf in the great quiet warehouse. It is a beautiful and elegant system, isn't it? A small, conscious workspace for the present moment, and a vast subconscious archive for a lifetime of stories. One is for holding, the other is for keeping. So let's gently return to that quiet distinction we just made, that beautiful idea that our inner library holds two very different kinds of knowing, the stories you can consciously tell, and the skills you quietly embody. Scientists have names for these, of course, gentle, fitting names. The memories you can declare, the ones you can bring into the light of your awareness and share with the world, are called your declarative memory. These are the facts and events that make up the known narrative of your life. These are the books on the shelves. But this grand hall of declarative memories has two beautiful, distinct wings. The first is the wing of episodic memory. Think of this as the personal memoir section of your library, filled with the story of your own life. It holds the memory of your first day at school, a specific feeling of the sun on your skin during a seaside holiday, the sound of a loved one's voice on the telephone last Tuesday. Each memory is an episode, a scene from the quiet, personal film of your time here. It is the story of you, told by you. The other wing holds your semantic memory. This is less like a memoir, and more like a vast, quiet hall of encyclopedias. It holds the facts, the knowledge that Paris is the capital of France, that a whale is a mammal, that the sky is blue. This is knowledge you have, but it is not tied to a specific personal moment. You know these things, but you probably don't remember the exact moment you learnt them. They are stories of the world, not stories of you. And then separate from all these books and all these stories, there is that other kind of knowing, your procedural memory. This isn't a book on a shelf at all. It is the silent, embodied wisdom of experience itself. It's the way your hands know how to button a shirt in the dark, the unconscious balance you find to ride a bicycle, the intricate dance your fingers perform across a keyboard, without a single thought. It is knowledge woven into your very muscles, your nerves, held in the body as a quiet, automatic grace. And the most beautiful proof that these two systems are truly separate comes from the story we visited earlier, the story of patient HM. Remember, after his surgery, HM lost his ability to form new declarative memories. He could not add new books to the shelves of his library. He couldn't learn new facts or remember new episodes from his life. His head librarian was gone. And yet his procedural memory remained, working quietly in the background. In one famous study, researchers asked him to trace a star while looking at his hand only in a mirror. It is a difficult task, and at first he struggled, but he did it again the next day, and the day after that, and with each session, he became dramatically better, his hand moving more smoothly, more surely. Here is the quiet, breathtaking part. Every time he sat down to do the task, he had no conscious memory of ever having done it before. He would say, "I don't remember this, but I seem to be getting better at it." His mind could not tell the story of learning, but his body remembered the skill. And in that simple, profound truth, we see the two halves of our memory in perfect, startling clarity. There is the conscious self, the storyteller, who reads from the library of the past, and then there is the quiet, intuitive self, the dancer, who simply knows the steps without ever needing to be told. Both are you, both are memory. So let's take a quiet walk through these two beautiful, distinct wings of our declarative memory, the library of stories we can tell. Let's feel the difference between them. First, we step into that vast, quiet hall of encyclopedias. This is your semantic memory. The air in here feels cool, still, and impersonal. This wing holds the shared map of the world, the millions of facts you know without knowing how you learnt them, the knowledge that a year has 12 months, that a dog barks, that Paris is the capital of France. These are not your stories. They are the world's stories, collected and stored with a quiet, calm objectivity. This is the what of your knowledge. It's the firm, cool stone that builds the architecture of your understanding. But across the hall is another room entirely. It's warmer in here. Instead of encyclopedias, this room is more like a small, private cinema, filled with the flickering light of countless projectors. This is your episodic memory. This is the home of your personal film. Each memory in here is not just a fact, it's a scene. It has a time, a place, and most importantly, a feeling. It holds the memory of that trip to Paris, the specific taste of a croissant on a chilly morning, the sound of the rain, the feeling of looking up at the Eiffel Tower for the very first time. It is the story of your last birthday, the scent of a summer evening from your childhood, the quiet moment you shared with a friend last week. Semantic memory is knowing that a song exists. Episodic memory is the feeling of hearing it for the first time, with someone you loved on a long drive with the windows down. One is the map, the other is your personal journey across it. And though these two wings feel so different, they are forever in quiet conversation. Your episodic memory of a beach trip is given beautiful context by your semantic knowledge of the tides, the personal story and the worldly fact, woven together so gracefully that you barely notice the seam. One gives your life its facts, the other gives your life its story. And so, after our quiet tour through the magnificent architecture of your mind, through its grand wings of stories and quiet halls of skill, it is easy to be left in a state of simple awe. It's an astonishingly elegant system, a beautiful machine for holding on to the past. But this brings us to a quiet and beautifully human paradox. If our brains are such masterful librarians, such careful architects building the story of you, why is our most common experience with memory the feeling of it slipping away? If we are so perfectly built to remember, why is forgetting our natural state? Perhaps the answer is that forgetting is not a flaw in the design. It is one of its most vital features. Think of your memory less like a permanent, dusty archive and more like a living garden. A wise gardener knows that to keep the garden healthy, to allow the most beautiful flowers to flourish, you cannot simply let everything grow forever. You must gently prune the tangled branches, weed out the unimportant thoughts, and clear away the fallen leaves of countless forgotten yesterdays. Without this quiet maintenance, the garden would become an impassable jungle, an overwhelming chaos of every trivial detail, every passing face, every forgotten conversation. A mind that forgot nothing would be a mind that could focus on nothing. Forgetting, then, is not the library burning down. It is the quiet, loving act of tending to the soil, ensuring there is always fresh earth for new seeds to take root. It is the mind's gentle way of making room for the story of tomorrow. And so this quiet, loving act of letting go is not the story of a library burning down. It is the story of a wise librarian who knows that not every book can stay on the main shelf forever. Some stories, having served their purpose, must be moved to the deep, silent archive to make room for new ones. Forgetting is not destruction, it is curation. It is the artist clearing the studio floor, sweeping away the old, faded sketches to make space for a new canvas. It is the gentle, necessary exhale that makes the next breath possible. And perhaps this brings us to the quiet heart of our journey tonight. We began by asking what a memory is, wondering if our mind was a perfect, dusty film archive. And along the way, we found something far more strange and beautiful. We found that memory isn't a thing you have, but a story you tell yourself, woven anew in each moment of recollection. We walked with Plato and his soft wax tablet, and we followed Aristotle's invisible threads of connection. We saw how a memory is first born as a well-worn path through the quiet forest of your mind, and how a tiny, diligent librarian called the hippocampus works through the night, filing away the story of your day. We explored the grand library itself, with its cool, factual halls of semantic knowledge, and its warm, flickering cinemas of personal, episodic moments. And through it all, we learnt that this vast, elegant architecture, this whole shimmering, intricate system, was never designed to be a perfect recording of the past. Its purpose is something far more profound. It is the loom on which the fabric of your identity is woven. Your memory is not a flawless archive of what was. It is a living, breathing story of who you are. And its flaws are not failures. They are a strange and beautiful form of grace. The moments that fade and soften give texture to the ones that remain sharp and bright. The stories that we half remember, that blur at the edges like old watercolors, are what make our past feel less like a cold, hard document and more like a warm, living landscape. So, as you settle back into your own quiet corner of the universe and prepare to drift into the world of sleep, a place where the librarian will soon begin their gentle nightly work. Take a moment to appreciate the beautiful, imperfect, and utterly personal library you carry within you. It is a collection like no other in the universe. It is the story of you. Thank you for spending this time with me. May your dreams be gentle and your rest be deep. Sleep well. Good night.